My name is Cherene Caraco. I am the Chief Executive Officer of a consumer-run agency called Promise Resource Network, or PRN. We are located in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we are here to support people that experience complex combinations of trauma and mental health issues, substance use, homelessness, and former incarceration. I am a psychiatric survivor. I came into mental health systems at around the age of 13, and I also am a survivor of childhood trauma. To understand mental health recovery, we first have to understand the experience of being labeled with a mental illness. When I was first labeled, like so many other people that become diagnosed, along with it came an identity and an experience and a prophecy that said I was sick, I was broken, and I was actually literally told I was always going to be sick. I was told I wouldn't be able to go to college, I would be in and out of hospitals for the rest of my life. And I believed it. I really did believe it for a long time. So if I start thinking about mental health recovery, it is really quite the opposite. When we look at mental health systems, they have been so longly defined as stabilization and maintenance and functioning from labels of mental illness. Mental health recovery, on the other hand, is not about being stuck at all. It's not about being stable at all. It's actually about moving forward in your life. It's about having a life, having an identity that is not surrounded just simply by treatments and treatment providers and diagnoses and psychiatric medications. It truly is about maybe claiming for the first time in your life or reclaiming, if you once had it and you lost it, who you are as a person and the things that are important to you. It's about self-awareness, knowing the things that help you to heal and to get well and be well, and making an intentional decision that you're going to do those things. It is also about suspending kind of the limits that perhaps were placed on us and making sure that we are imagining what a life that feels good to us, a quality of life actually looks like. And it's moving forward to attain that quality of life. To me, psychiatric advance directives can be a really impactful tool in recovery and in so many different ways. Number one, it's really about exploring for ourselves what works, what doesn't work, what we want, what we don't want, and finding our voice to be able to say those things and have them honored, have them understood, and have them respected. That in and of itself can be incredibly powerful to people. So on the individual level, it can be a really impactful, powerful tool. When we're thinking about system change, macro level change, psychiatric advance directives are also critical for systems and practitioners to think about illness and think about recovery. Sometimes what happens in systems is we believe that there is a level of expertise that is outside of the person that we may have as practitioners, and we tell them what they need to do without pausing to really explore the things that are important to them and the things that they identify as helpful and harmful. When somebody shows up with a psychiatric advance directive, it does require us from a systems perspective to pause, to understand it, to engage in conversation, to become partners with the people that we're serving, and to figure out the best ways to honor their preferences to the best of our ability. So I think it's a tool both at the individual level, but also for system change toward recovery. Peer support. Peer support is something that is so near and dear to me. It is one of the resources, the connections, the relationships, the opportunities, frankly, that I wish I had when I was first diagnosed with mental health issues, and as I was kind of struggling along and trying to figure out who I was and what this meant in my life, and most importantly, how to live my life in spite of the mental health labels that I had been given. Peer support, at its most simplest form, is somebody with shared experience connecting to another person. And, part of that shared experience creates comfort and it creates relationship among two people. There is kind of a knowing that occurs when two people have shared experience. And I would really venture to say that's in any types of experiences, right? We see each other, we know each other, we recognize each other. When I am in a connection with somebody else who identifies as a trauma survivor, there is a knowing. We don't even have to explain or describe or go into detail because we understand at some level what the experience is. That's what peer support allows us to do as people. We connect in a mutual way. It is not hierarchical in any way. So it kind of diminishes the fear of what do I say, and most importantly, what do I not say, right, to the other person. It also is about wisdom. When somebody comes in relationship with somebody else that has been down the path a little bit sooner, maybe a little bit earlier, they have gathered tools and tips and lessons learned along the way to help you out, to maybe throw out some ideas for you to be able to explore. I have found that the impact of peer support is unreplicated. It doesn't matter how many degrees a person has, how many certifications, or even how many years of professional experience. There is something in the exchange with a peer supporter that just cannot be duplicated. It's incredibly powerful. In saying that, so the role of peer support specialists in psychiatric advance directives. If you are a person that has experienced hospitalization due to mental health issues, if you have experienced involuntary commitment, if you have experienced distress, like significant distress, there is a shared understanding of what it's like to not only experience those things, but also to feel voiceless and powerless, and sometimes to be rendered helpless in the name of treatment. What a peer support specialist can do is explore that and understand that experience with somebody and also support them to know that they do in fact have a voice. That's what a psychiatric advance directive truly is. It is my preferences, it is my wants, it is my needs, it is the things that help me and the things that feel harmful to me. There is no better person to support me in developing my own advance directive than somebody who knows what it's like to feel that level of powerlessness. So conceptually, PADS are actually really simple. And they are not unlike any other advanced instruction that we have, like DNR or advanced instruction for medical care. However, in order to do them, it really does require a philosophical shift, a paradigm shift, and then there's some practice changes that need to happen, which make it a little bit more complex, right, than it seems on the surface. One is awareness and training. Awareness for the person, for their loved one or family members, for the practitioners, for the psychiatrists, for the medical professionals of what a psychiatric advance directive is, what it is not, what the potential is for it, and of course what the limitations are. There's a lot of misinformation about psychiatric advance directives in practice, and one of the things that we find is that practitioners can be afraid. They can be afraid of liability if they follow a psychiatric advance directive and something were to go wrong. So there's obviously information, awareness, and education that needs to occur in order for it to be implemented at the practice level. There are also some really practical logistic things, like in different states, psychiatric advance directives are written differently. There are different formats. There are different legal requirements for authorizing, signing, witnessing, notarizing a psychiatric advance directive. And so you need to know what that is going to look like in your own state. And then there have to be processes on the front end within behavioral health in order to look at where your systems and your processes and your procedures need to be modified. What to do when somebody walks in with a psychiatric advance directive. What does it mean? What does it not mean? How to put a flag on it so that the treatment providers know that somebody has a psychiatric advance directive, and the process that you're going to put in place for reviewing it, making decisions about honoring it or not, making clinical determinations if you're not going to honor a psychiatric advance directive, how you're going to justify not doing that. And so there's a lot of things that really need to be done from a system perspective to start really making psychiatric advance directives usable. The last thing I would say is really about supported decision making. Philosophically, we've done this in our medical community for years. You come in, you may have a medical issue, your doctor will explore with you what the options are, what the possibilities are. You can get a second opinion, but ultimately you make decisions jointly about which direction you want to go. In the mental health system, that is not typically the case. Usually the expectation is, I am the provider, I know what you should do, and your job is to be compliant. Now what we are doing with psychiatric advance directives is bringing in supported decision making and making sure people know that they have the right to have this legal document, that they can explore through information what works for them and what does not work for them, that they can have it documented, that it is a legal and binding document, and that it at least needs to be reviewed for your preferences by your treatment provider.